Why is it now that the U.S. is seen as a safe haven for these assets? Been the Cayman Islands, as I said, Switzerland.
Yeah, I mean, so where to begin? I mean, basically, 7 or 8 years ago, the U.S. started cracking down on Swiss banks that were helping rich Americans hide their money offshore. And what happened is that a bunch of countries overseas, dozens of countries, have agreed to sign on to international standards to share bank account information to try to prevent their citizens from dodging taxes. The one major country that hasn't signed on is the U.S. And so what's happening now is fund managers and trust companies and tax lawyers who have clients outside the U.S. who are maybe a little worried about their accounts in Cayman and Switzerland and the British Virgin Islands and who want confidentiality are talking about moving that money into the U.S. And that's actually happening. In the story, we spoke to Rothschilds, the big European bank, which has set up a trust company in Reno, Nevada, of all places, and they are in the process of moving wealthy clients from Asia and Turkey out of the Bahamas, out of Bermuda, and into Nevada.
So why? I mean, why Nevada and why South Dakota? What are they doing?
Well, so they're moving into the U.S. because the U.S. hasn't signed on to these international protocols. South Dakota, Nevada, some other states have trust laws that are particularly beneficial, make it easier for you to avoid taxes, add an extra layer of confidentiality.
So the U.S. hasn't signed on to this yet. Certainly we saw a lot of reporting about the secrecy surrounding high-end real estate in major cities and an indication that the government is now going to start looking into who is owning what, whether these shell companies are or not. What does the government say, A, about why they haven't signed on to this, and B, about the level of scrutiny they apply to individuals like this?
Right. So the Treasury Department kind of has two responses. One is they say that the laws that we have in place are sufficient, and at the same time, the Obama Treasury Department has made a proposal that would be similar to what some of these other countries have signed on to. That they are proposing to do things that would kind of up the level of scrutiny, but so far that hasn't happened. It would require congressional approval, which I think the Treasury Department knows would be quite difficult.
So if you look at Nevada and Wyoming, South Dakota, what do the states wind up getting out of it?
What do the states wind up getting out of it? Well, there's a lot of work there for these trust companies and for attorneys that set these things up. There is probably someone who can quantify it. I'm not sure I'm the person that can do that.
But you have businesses going there, like you said, setting up trust. But what else? I mean, are other big guys like moving their residences there?
Well,
how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, there isn't. It's not like these are companies or people moving to these states. But there's a booming trust company industry in these states, and those people. And if you've ever been to Reno, I mean, this is a place that has experienced hard times for a number of decades, and I think to some degree they are kind of banking on the trust industry as a way to replace some of the hospitality and gambling that kind of used to keep that place afloat.
Just looking at this from an historical perspective, where people have put or stashed money over time, so from Switzerland to the Caymans, how often does it change? How often does it shift? Are people reasonably sure that by doing this it's going to be safe? They're going to have confidentiality for an extended period of time?
No, so that's a very interesting question, right? I mean, because obviously there is a possibility the U.S. could sign on to these standards and that would change things. I think a lot of people are banking on either the U.S. will never sign on to them, or if they do, you've got another 3 or 4 or 5 years of figuring out how to keep your money safe, and then if the U.S. does sign on, then you can figure out a new jurisdiction.